US President Donald Trump recently held back-to-back phone calls with leaders of Russia and Ukraine. Why? To put forward a new roadmap to ending the ongoing war in Ukraine. Let's break down what this means and what's the next in the conflict. Trump's administration has made it clear that ending the war is one of his key campaign promises, and he is now pushing for negotiations to begin immediately. Let's start with Trump's call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump described their 1.5-hour conversation as highly productive, where both leaders agreed that the war needs to stop and millions of lives need to be saved.
We had a very good talk with, people didn't really know what President Putin's thoughts were, but I think I can say with great confidence he wants to see it ended also. That's good. And we're going to work toward getting it ended.
Trump even shared that Putin used his campaign motto, common sense, saying they both believe in it. The two also agreed to meet in person soon, likely in Saudi Arabia. Then Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who also described their call as very good. The discussion focused on both military and economic issues, including Ukraine's use of drones. However, Trump later made it clear that Ukraine is unlikely to regain all the territory Russia has seized or join NATO.
Propose NATO membership for Ukraine?
I don't think it's practical to have it, personally. I know that a new Secretary of Defense, who's excellent, Pete, made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that. This has been going on for many, many years. They've been saying that for a long time, that Ukraine cannot go into NATO. And I'm okay with that. I just want the war, whether they are or they're not. But it certainly would seem to be that most people have said that that is something that's not going to happen.
This was a big shift from the previous US stance. So, what's Trump's vision for ending the war? According to the US Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, it's about being realistic. Russia has made significant territorial gains, and the US is now focusing more on its own homeland in the Asia-Pacific region. As for NATO, Hegseth made it clear that Ukraine joining the defense bloc is not a realistic option in a negotiated settlement.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement.
Even Zelensky is now considering a plan B for Ukraine's defense if NATO membership isn't on the table.
And I do not believe in security guarantees without America. Yes, it will be just weak, but America will not offer guarantees unless Europe's own guarantees are strong. And I also will not take NATO membership for Ukraine off the table.
The US administration believes that continuing to fight for these lost territories will only prolong the war and cause more suffering. When it comes to Ukraine's security, Hegseth stated that the US will not send troops to the region. Instead, Ukraine's security will rely on European and non-European troops, possibly as peacekeepers, but not NATO forces.
Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops.
The approach marks a shift from the Biden administration's stance, which focused heavily on military aid to Ukraine. Now Europe will need to take on more responsibility, including increasing defense spending.
And yes, our defense spending went up from just over 200 billion before the war to now over 320 billion last year. But we will need to increase that number considerably once again. Because from just below 2% to above 3% will mean hundreds of billions of euro of more investment every year. So we need a bold approach.
As the situation continues to unfold, the world watches closely. Will Trump's new approach lead to peace, or will the conflict drag on for years? Subscribe to Dawn News English for more on this evolving story.